Jackson had been wandering for hours through a forest that seemed determined to swallow him whole. His map had long since become useless, the landmarks eroding into the dimming light of early evening. Fatigue tugged at his every step as he pushed deeper into a tangle of mist and towering oaks. Then, by a quirk of fate or perhaps design, he stumbled upon a clearing. At first glance, it appeared as just another open space amid a sea of trees, but as Jackson moved toward it, an unsettling realization took root. The clearing stretched out endlessly in every direction. No matter which path he chose, the landscape unfolded as a vast, featureless plain bordered by the same dark woods, as if the clearing itself were an infinite circle. Tentatively, each step led him back to the same spot, the dizzying circle of green and shadow mocking his desperate attempts to escape. Dusk fell slowly, enshrouding the clearing in an inky blanket of twilight. The colors of sunset bled into the horizon in a brief, surreal display of gold and crimson before surrendering to darkness. It was then that Jackson began to notice the figures, shadowy silhouettes that lingered at the very edge of the clearing. They were there, silent and motionless at first, like dark watchers hidden in the peripheral vision of his descent into madness. Their presence chilled him. Though he couldn't make out distinct features, the watchful eyes seemed to burn with an ancient, inscrutable intent. Jackson's heart hammered in the oppressive silence as he tried in vain to remember his route. "This can't be real," he mumbled under his breath, his voice a shaky whisper swallowed by the darkness. Each attempt to retrace his steps led him inevitably back to the center of the clearing. The ground beneath his feet, soft with moss and damp leaves, seemed to be an accomplice, a living trap weaving a web that ensnared him in a never-ending loop. As night deepened, so did the mystery of the clearing. The shadowy figures began to move, though never fully emerging from the darkness. Jackson caught fleeting glimpses of their forms, a pair of luminous eyes here, a hint of a gaunt face there, only to find that whenever he hastened his pace in the direction, the figures melted back into the gloom at the edge of his vision. They offered no words, no gestures, only the silent, steady gaze of beings who had witnessed countless others wander into this cursed expanse. Driven by a mix of terror and a desperate need for answers, Jackson began marking his trail with rough notches on the bark of an old pine, a futile attempt to capture some semblance of route amidst the fickle geometry of the clearing. In his isolation, the forest began to speak in other ways. Whispers rode the cold night wind, words indistinct and barely audible, as if meant for ears no longer attuned to mortal language. They told tales of travelers before him, lost souls whose echoes lingered among the trees, bound to the endless loop of the clearing. The hours bled into each other, and the oppressive weight of the clearing's ancient secret began to seep into Jackson's bones. He questioned if he would ever break free or if he, like those before him, was destined to wander within this eternal circle until his own presence faded into myth. As the night reached its nadir, the figures at the edge of the clearing grew bolder, if only in his imagination, and with every echoing whisper of his own labored breath, the boundary between his reality and some unfathomable beyond began to blur. Standing in the center of the endless clearing with only the silent, watchful shadows for company, Jackson faced the realization that the forest was not merely lost but deliberate, a place where the laws of time and space twisted into an unending labyrinth. Each step forward was a step further from liberation, and every shadow a reminder that some mysteries remain unbroken, guarding the dark corners of the world where no map can lead and no mortal foot can tread without consequence. In that moment, as he took one final hesitant step toward the lurking figures, the clearing seemed to whisper a final, wordless promise. Jackson's desperate cries merged with the mournful howls of the unseen watchers, his voice becoming one with the endless lament of the forest, a haunting echo destined to partake in the eternal cycle of those forever lost in the endless clearing.